Would you guys like a sneak peek of my novella? The Trials of Tiarsus releases July 1st over on Amazon, so if you like what you hear, go grab a copy. It's cheap. It's a fun read. Good one for a road trip or something. But, you want a sneak peek? There you go. The Trials of Tiarsus by Derek Hall. Part 1. 2 score past. Chapter 1. Farm. Tiarsus stood atop the bluff that marked the divide between his home and the sea, the moist salt wind whipping his cloak about like a flag in a gale. He could feel the chill in the air and knew instinctively that it would be winter soon. Even though he was only 14, his father made sure he knew the changes in the weather and what they meant. Winter was coming early this year. He pulled up his hood and turned back to the flock he was supposed to be tending. "Field maggots," he muttered. Tiarsus hated sheep. They were oily and stinky and had no sense about them, always wandering into trouble. Not at all like their 2 cows. Those were much easier to tend to, even if they were a bit stupid. He readjusted the grip on his staff and walked to intercept a sheep that was eating its way to the cliff, likely to walk right off if he didn't stop it. He caught up and gave the animal a sharp nudge with the wooden staff. It bleated in protest at having mealtime interrupted, but reluctantly turned back. From where he stood now, Tiarsus noticed several black dots moving along the beach toward the river and by extension toward the trail that led to their cottage. He squinted in an attempt to see clearer, but it did little good other than to solidify that the dots were in fact men. There was a small boat pulled up on the sand and a line of tracks along the beach, where the men had passed. He did not see a ship, but that meant little, as it could easily be hidden by the bluffs further along the coast. Tiarsus was intrigued by these visitors, but his father had left a warning before he left for market just over a week ago to sell the last of the autumn harvest and a load of fish. "These are dangerous times and strange things happen. We've been lucky, but luck has a way of running out. There have been reports of slavers along this coast. Keep an eye. Be wary of strangers, don't wander too far, and take care of your mother and sister," Father had said when the last sacks of grain were loaded in their small boat. "I will, Da," Tiarsus nodded. "That's a good lad. I should be back within 2 weeks." Slavers! The realization suddenly hit him that it was wash day and his mother and sister would be down by the river at this time, right in the path of the strangers. A glance at the sheep confirmed that they were either bedded or wandering away from the bluff, and Tiarsus took off at a full sprint, staff in hand, following the well-worn path along the bluffs. He barely looked at his feet as he ran, trusting muscle memory to do the job. The track branched over the hill to their cottage, but he ignored that path as he continued along the bluffs, and it began to slope toward the river. He could hear shouting, the voices rough and grating. It was the high-pitched screams that served to punctuate the sound that made him push his legs all the harder. Tiarsus rounded the bend in the path and came parallel to the river as it splashed toward the sea. Ahead of him was a group of several rough-looking humans. The group had their backs turned to him, and 2 of them were in the process of tying up his mother and sister. Still at a full sprint, Tiarsus drew back his staff for a 2-handed swing, closing the last of the distance to one of the sailors. "Leave them alone!" he bellowed, putting all of his strength into the swing, which took the sailor full in the back of the head. The man collapsed instantly, unconscious. Tiarsus followed his momentum through and made a backhand swing at the next sailor, hoping for the same result, only to have his staff caught by a calloused hand. "Feisty one here," the man said, laughing, using his other hand to hold Tiarsus as he pulled the staff from the boy's hands and tossed it aside. "Should we take him too, Cap?" another sailor asked. His voice was oddly squeaky and mismatched to his muscle-bound frame. "Nah, buyer only wants pretty little elf girls," the first sailor replied, still holding Tiarsus at arm's length. "Apparently they can be rather lucrative." The other sailors laughed. "Don't you touch them!" Tiarsus yelled. He flailed about and managed to land a kick to the fork of the man's legs, dropping the sailor, who he presumed to be the captain, to his knees and loosening the man's grip enough for Tiarsus to wriggle free. He scrambled back and grabbed a fist-sized rock out of the river muck. He came to his feet amid scattered washing, muddy and wet, but at least somewhat armed. The sailors only laughed and picked up Tiarsus's family, throwing them unceremoniously over their shoulders like sacks of wheat. Enraged, he charged at the nearest soldier, ready to pound the man's head into paste with his river stone. He was met instead with his own staff as it slammed into his nose. Tiarsus heard the bone and cartilage crack, the sound echoing inside of his skull as he fell flat onto his back in the cold mud. "You've got spirit, kid, I'll give you that," the captain chuckled, his head sliding into Tiarsus' view even as his vision dimmed around the edges. "I'll kill you," Tiarsus mumbled. "What's that, boy? Something to say?" The sailor leaned closer and cupped one ear, making a mockery of listening. Tiarsus stared, making sure to burn every detail of the man's face into his memory. "I'll kill you for taking them," Tiarsus said again, clearer and more confident this time. "I look forward to it. Till then, though, me and the boys here best be getting a move on. Wouldn't want to miss the tide." The sailor winked and smiled, revealing a mouthful of crooked and broken teeth. "Nighty-night." He drew back and kicked Tiarsus full in the temple, and everything went black. Hell of a way to start a story. Sounds like it's going to be a fun ride. Go pick up a copy. Trials of Tiarsus, July 1st, Amazon, paperback, and ebook. Thanks, guys.